For better or worse, I don't think that the Xpeng P7 Plus is a second coming of the P7i. It's evolved into something else, and why I think it hits the nail on the head for current consumer trends, let's have a moment of silence for the truly great original P7. Psych, they're not stopping the production of the P7i. So many Xpengs. You can have an Xpeng, you can have an Xpeng. Xpengs for everyone. So the Xpeng P7 Plus is slotting above Xpeng Soul. I'm Will, and this is China Driven. The original P7 is a true Chinese EV style icon. It was a fresh of breath air back in 2019 when it launched into a sea of small family EV SUVs. And it ticks so many of the boxes: long-nosed, wide-hip, coupe-ish sedan with great handling and decent performance. The new P7 Plus is less of that, and actually more of the things that the P7i lacks. In this way, the new Xpeng P7 Plus serves to complement the P7i. Xpeng are calling the new Xpeng P7 their new flagship sedan, so it was quite surprising when Xpeng unveiled the starting price of just 209,800 RMB, or just under $29,500 for the entry long-range version. It seems Xpeng are defining the Xpeng P7 Plus as a flagship in terms of space, tech and comfort, rather than the outright price tag. For those that don't know, in the real world, I'm a chemistry teacher, and I'm forever telling my students to use a goddamn ruler when they're drawing things. And the front end of this P7 Plus kind of looks like someone was told to design an Xpeng front end only using a ruler. The Xpeng P7 Plus may look energetic up front, but compared to the P7i's long nose, wide hipped and classic coupe-ish proportions, this is far less sporty looking. It's more three-box layout, and the front end gives me almost Toyota Camry vibes, with the rear whispering Honda CRX. But let's go through some of the design features, if you like, of the Xpeng P7. Now, up here at the front end, you still have the Xpeng lightsaber, but this time less curvaceous, and overall the styling gives you a feeling that it's more angular with kind of more slashes. And you'll also notice that the separated headlights lower in the bumper hark back to Xpengs of the past, with one key difference: there's no lidar in them. We'll get onto that a little later on. I'm a big fan of these kind of haunches in the bonnet and the overall diving nature of this front end. In fact, I'm a big fan of the whole front end of the P7 Plus, and I'm looking forward to see how it transfers later to hopefully an updated P7. Our car comes with the optional complicated 20-inch rims, and they come with a 255/45 tyre, but if you want to get the claimed ranges of this car, you'll have to take the standard rim, which is an 18-inch rim with chunky 235/60 tyres. Of course, it's got flush door handles because we're making proper EVs over here at Xpeng, and lower down you get this kind of black trim all the way around the car, almost a signature of Xpeng products. Can you guess what it is yet? With Xpeng proudly put on the rear here with these kind of candy cane shaped LED tail lights. Firstly, this has no front, but who gives a shit, because this has got a proper boot. 725 litres with those rear seats up, because finally OEMs have realised that a liftback design just gives you so much more rear space. And if you drop those rear seats, you have up to 2,221 litres back here. Now, I'm not supposing many people will do this, but if you need to pick up an IKEA bed frame, I'm pretty sure you could do in the back of this. So let me just close this up, and you'll see back here this dual level back end with this kind of glass canopy. Now, this is for aerodynamics, and this car has a drag coefficient of just 0.206, which is crucial for it to hit the energy consumption figures that it can. In fact, the long-range version with its 60.7 kilowatt-hour LFP battery claims an efficiency of just 11.6 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers, with a range of 602 kilometers, while the super long-range version uses a larger 76.3 kilowatt-hour LFP battery with a lower but still respectable 12.3 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. It will also eke out 710 kilometers of range. Both are quoted to charge 10 to 80% in around 20 minutes, but Xpeng prefers the figure 30 to 80% in 16 minutes. Honestly, not the fastest in terms of charging versus competitors in the market, but still a reasonable fast recharge time. Okay, so the interior of the P7 Plus. Now, seeing as we as a species are disgustingly obsessed with screens, let's start there. You get a 15.6 inch 2.5K central touchscreen, a familiar 10.25 inch instrument panel, and also a 9-inch digital rear view mirror. What's missing? Well, there is no heads-up display, because the Xpeng CEO He Xiaopeng has said on multiple times that he dislikes heads-up displays, but I still don't really get that, because if you don't like HUDs, you could always just switch it off. Here's to hoping that He Xiaopeng goes back on his no HUD policy, kind of like how William Li has reneged on his no screens in the rear of cars, because he realized that, you know what, his customers actually like to sedate their kids. Are we nearly there yet? With a little bit of screen time. Styling wise, look, it's super clean in here. I do actually really quite like the interior, but it is a tad conformist. But I guess as a reviewer, you do kind of get, let's call it styling fatigue, when you're jumping into multiple cars regularly. Also at a point not long ago where I was complaining that every new Xpeng had completely different interior styling. This definitely has a family resemblance to the G6 and G9 interiors, so maybe you need to be careful what you wish for. But I do really like this interior. Like I said before, I think it's clean, it's very stylish and modern looking. And the materials, you know, pretty good for this price. There's lots of soft touch. All of this is soft touch. All of the door panels are soft touch. Only when you start digging below your hip do you find some hard plastics. So generally, style-wise and material-wise, I think this is a very decent interior for the price point. As for other things in here, well, you get Xpeng's, frankly, fantastic AI voice assistant in 4 zones. You also get dual 50-watt cooled wireless charging pads up front, and you get heat, ventilation, a spa massage function in the front row as well as in the rear. In fact, let's go check out the rear. Okay, so one of the big advantages that the Xpeng P7 has over the P7i is rear space. I mean, headroom in the P7i was fairly compromised because of its kind of coupe-ish styling. I'm not saying in here you have an enormous amount of headroom, but it's a lot better than the P7i. I'm only 1.7 meters, and even for me, the headroom in the P7i is concerning. So I have plenty of space in here. As for kind of leg room, I'm sat behind myself here. I've got loads of knee room and loads of foot room. In terms of the materials back here, it's the same as the front. This is all soft touch all the way down to about here where it becomes harder plastic. You also have like a faux micro suede headliner as well, and generally the materials are good to the touch. In terms of features back here, now you've got electronic recline, I believe up to 37 degrees. It goes a noticeable way back, and that also helps with headroom as well. In terms of entertainment, the Xpeng P7 comes with a 20-speaker surround sound system with Dolby Atmos spatial audio. There is also, in addition to the front's central screen, a rear screen down here. It's an 8-inch unit. You can control, you know, your AC, as well as the rear heating, ventilation, and massage. You can also control the media playing, and you have access to some apps, including things like iQIYI and Bilibili. Up top, you've got a huge panoramic glass roof. It's actually really hot because we sat in the sun, but it's kind of darkened to keep the sun off of you. And yeah, generally, the seats back here are really quite comfortable, and there is a ridiculous amount of space compared to the P7i. So if you are looking for a kind of larger, more comfortable Xpeng sedan, this is what the P7 Plus has been designed to offer. Another thing back here is behind the passenger, you also have a little table, which is becoming more and more popular nowadays. Seems sturdy enough. Okay, so driving the P7 Plus, there's actually two models. There's a long range version and the super long range version, but they are both single motor rear wheel drive. The long range version has 180 kilowatts and 450 Newton meters, and the acceleration time is 6.8 seconds, 0 to 100. Now the super long range, even though it has a longer range, is actually more powerful. 230 kilowatts and 450 Newton meters, and it will do the dash from 0 to 100 a bit quicker at 5.9 seconds. Now obviously this car is not aimed at being the fastest car. That's what the P7i is for. That's the more sporty, if you like, of the P7s, and this focuses more on comfort and space. It goes without saying the P7 Plus doesn't deliver a sporty or engaging drive. It drives in line with its goal, offering a comfy laid-back ride, more Audi A6 than BMW 5 Series in that department. And I'm totally on board with that idea, allowing the P7i to fill that more sporty driving role. In terms of comfort, Xpeng say that this is on par with or even exceeds what they call the 5/6e, which means BMW 5 Series, Audi A6 and Mercedes E-Class. And I have to say, it's fairly comfortable in here. It's got a double wishbone up front and a 5-link multi-link in the rear. And the steering, you know what, the steering is nice and direct. This is something that you get in a lot of Xpengs and something I really enjoy. Comfort-wise, yeah, it's comfortable. It is single pane glass. We didn't go on the highway, so I can't speak to NVH at highway speeds, but pootling around, you know, around 60 kilometers or so an hour, it's quiet in here and it's comfortable in here. If I was to nitpick, then I'd say this. It doesn't fool you into thinking this has air suspension. Its comfort-oriented ride delivers well, soaking up much of the road surface, but that final edge of road texture that air suspension would normally weed out is still present. Comfort levels are easily on par with the likes of the Mercedes E-Class or BMW 5 Series, and I suspect if riding on the standard 18-inch wheels, comfort would be even better. Now in terms of ADAS hardware, this is running dual NVIDIA Orin X chips for a total of 508 tops, and it's got 26 sensing units, but this is the key. The P7 Plus has no lidar. Up until now, typical, since the P5, Xpengs have had 2 lidar units down by the headlights. But this is not the case anymore with the P7 Plus. The P7 Plus is the first of Xpeng's lidar-less, vision-only approach to their city XNGP and highway NGP. Now this new system in the P7, they're calling Eagle Eye Vision. And once again, like all Xpeng, you just double press and it starts. Now, Xiao P is going to probably talk a lot, but this system, they say, is equally as good as their lidar-based systems. And we've been using it a bit around the roads here. Granted, it's not the most congested roads, but there are a few kind of complicated intersections, and it seems to be doing a pretty good job at navigating these small roads and offshoots and going around parked cars. Here we go, we're going around one right now, and it seems fairly impressive. If you haven't noticed, for some reason, Xiaopi has been turned into a little child's voice. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of it. We're about to park up, but having used Xpeng's XNGP and other vehicles with lidar and experiencing this one without lidar, I would say if there is a difference, I can't notice it. Xpeng is a mainstream brand, and the Xpeng P7 Plus is a mainstream premium sedan, and it ticks all of the boxes that it needs: space, tech and comfort, and it doesn't concern itself with other things like handling and performance. And looking at the Chinese EV market, that doesn't surprise me. This has definitely been developed for mainstream needs. They say in China, when you settle down and get married, you get comfortable and fat. I used to be like the old P7, energetic and only 70 kilos. But I've settled down for a while since then, and me and the P7 Plus have been living high on the hog of life. We just aren't as sporty as we used to be.